Y bueno, vamos a comenzar el libro 3 de Ken Follett.
The White Ship. She was one of the fastest vessels that was ever built. The man who should be king of the English now, the son of King Henry, was on board when she sailed off. And with the prince there were 140 knights and many nobles, all on their way from Normandy to England. They say the ship hit the rocks, and then a fire broke out. Even before the White Ship had departed, the prince and his men had begun to drink and get violent. Monks that were meant to bless the voyage were then forced to disembark. Some say the ship had been cursed. The king's son and many of his family were pulled down into the Black Sea that night.
Se me tira todo tu stream, siempre no sé qué onda. Tiene que ser de internet, Micho. No debería tildarse. O sea, de hecho, de paso, creo que sos la única que le pasa.
Not only these monks, but also Stephen of Blois, the king's nephew, left the ship before it embarked. They say he got ill.
That old rumor.
Ah, ahí está.
The same Stephen who calls himself
el
the
mini
king of the English now.
Está el mini
What? That cannot be a coincidence.
Yes, it
Con la línea.
Of course he's king now.
Esa melena roja.
Survived.
El mini
He's the king's nephew.
What do you think, my lord?
I think Stephen is a clever man. Clever enough to have his whole family perish. But why he would want to rule that god-forsaken rock, I will never understand.
What makes you say that? I love my country.
Then why are you leaving?
Well, because I want to see something new.
I'll tell you what you're going to see. A proper country, where people know how to behave.
What about you? Why are you leaving?
I'm looking for someone.
For who? I guess I should stay out of other people's business. Forgive me.
Y no, bro, la verdad.
You English do talk a lot, don't you?
I just don't know how to feel about leaving my country for the first time. I mean, how should anyone feel?
Esperanzado.
Hopeful?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just running away.
Es muy probable. Igual yo iría. En medio de una guerra yo no me quiero meter. Yo me
You
iría a
should
la
all
mierda.
get some rest. It will not be long now till we reach Cherbourg.
Thank the Lord.
Cómo
I
me
can't
gusta la
wait
música
to
del
be
juego.
back.
Qué hermosa música, boludo. Mira que estoy en modo... Ay, te juro que esto me hace acordar una banda a la intro de una serie. No me acuerdo qué serie, boludo. Pero había una serie que arrancaba muy similar. Hasta la música, no sé si no es la misma. Jackie, vamos con tu pibe, Jackie. Tu puta casa, la catedral. Fíjate, trata de poner el stream en automático Michi o en la peor, aunque se vea bastante mal, en la peor resolución. O una de las peores, cosas que por ahí agarrás. Ken Follett, The Pillar of the Earth. Sí, mi pronunciación en inglés se va un poquito del pasto, pero bueno. Earth. No. Earth. Más. Libro 3, El Ojo de la Tormenta, capítulo K15. 14, o sea, 15. La sí. Cherbourg, Normandy.
In the late summer of 1142, I had left my home country, England, for good. My old life lay in shambles, as did my former home of Kingsbridge. Having failed both my friends and family, I had set out to find my baby's father, the man I still loved with all my heart, Jack Jackson. And so early one morning in July, I finally arrived on the shores of Normandy. With nothing on me but a pouch of coin and a young, curious face yet unnamed, who was just as unfamiliar to this new world as was I.
El barco blanco. El documento de la mierda esta que vimos recién. No, para acá. Albañil.
You're still here.
Oh, it's you. I'm just trying to get my feet used to good solid ground again. The last bit of our voyage wasn't exactly my pint of ale.
Estoy buscando a alguien.
I'm looking for someone. A red-haired mason called Jack Jackson. He came to France about a year ago or so.
A fellow mason, great. Unfortunately, I wouldn't know a thing. After all, I just arrived here with you.
I know, but should you meet someone like that on your journey, tell him Aliena of Shiring is looking for him.
All right. Jack Jackson. I'll keep an eye out for you.
Al panapa.
Thank you. That hammer you're carrying, do you happen to be a
Vamos a jugar un rato, calculo que
Actually, I am.
haremos 1 o 2 episodios
You're a
y
keen eye mistress.
después vamos a hacer otra cosa.
I guess I just know a mason when I see one.
To be honest, I haven't been one long. Just finished my apprenticeship in Salisbury. Before that, I used to shear sheep with my parents, but I guess that wasn't really for me. Father still hates me for leaving, though.
¿Dónde iría una mañana?
What will you do to find work here as a mason?
Don't know. That's for me to find out. All I heard was that the wages are better over here.
So you'll just travel from town to town and look for employment?
Right. And I was starting to say, a fellow mason told me about the abbey there. He said these Normans build their churches quite differently than we do back home. I need to see that with my own eyes. Maybe learn a thing or two.
Chupate esa. Quizás ya que va a llegar a la bahía del 6. Guardar. Son muchos albañiles que acuden al 6.
Do many masons go to Lesay?
I dunno. It's really just a tiny town. The mason who told me just happened to do some repairs there once. It's likely he told others as well.
I left my old life as well.
Scary, isn't it? To start off fresh and all that.
Well, you definitely sound more excited than scared.
Oh, I am excited. Wouldn't anyone be?
I don't know. Maybe. Have a safe journey.
Oh, thank you.
Gracias,
You
querido.
too.
Nos vemos. Que te vaya muy pero muy bien. Hasta que no encuentras ya. Ah, el bebé sin nombre. Jeje. Jeje, el pibito no tiene nombre. Gigi, el pibito sin nombre. Che, ¿cómo se supone que...?
Where did you go? No.
A ver si me voy para acá. ¿Salgo? Ah, no, se mueve el mapa. Ahí está, ahora sí. Tiene más color.
Good day.
Opa.
I am looking for someone. A traveler who came through here last summer.
Tiene bastante pinta ya que igual, tío.
Oh, hush now. I need to talk to this man.
Looks young.
He was born at the beginning of summer.
What's his name?
I haven't given him one yet.
You should. He needs to know who he is. Makes growing up a lot easier.
Tiene razón.
You said you're looking for someone.
La verdad es que se parece un poco a ti.
I'm looking for the boy's father.
From the look of your baby, I reckon his father has red hair like me, right? Well, I don't know every redhead around these parts. There are quite a few of us. Most of my family here in Cherbourg is ginger.
Oh, his name is Jack Jackson, and he is a mason.
No. No, sorry. I haven't seen him. And I come here every day. Maybe May saw him. She helps the sailors get their cargo to the nearby towns. Carries travelers, too.
I'll ask her. Well, thank you.
Gracias, Colorado. ¿Esta sale acá? No, la cochera. Este es un puesto. Otro puesto. A ver la cochera que dice. Si puedo guardar el auto o no.
Hey, you. That's quite a bundle you got there. Where are you headed?
Ah, ¿qué te importa?
Have you seen a red-haired mason? He must have landed here sometime late last summer.
Another ginger in Normandy? I wouldn't have noticed, even if he was carrying a hammer instead of a fishing rod. Maybe you should ask someone in Barfleur. That's where all the travellers come through, the pilgrims and kings. Their lot rarely lands in Cherbourg, with the fortress passing back and forth between Stephen of Blois and Geoffrey of Anjou. Why you even came to Cherbourg in the first place baffles me.
It was the earliest ship I could get.
You must be in some hurry, madam.
Let's just say I needed to get away before I changed my mind.
Fine with me. Who am I to judge?
Y la verdad que nadie. Adoptable.
Do you know the road to Lessay?
Been there, seen it. But I hope you're not planning to go there on foot. Tell you what, you give me some coins and I'll treat you to me wagon. You can even change your destination once we're on the road. What'd you say?
¿Qué rutas hay? Estoy lista para abandonar Cherbourg.
What other routes are there besides going through Barfleur?
Oh, I don't know, really. You need to ask the locals about that. But Barfleur sounds like a good place to start. Shake my hand and I'll take you there.
Por ahora, vamos a abandonar la
Traveling by
conversación.
your little...
Tranqui, tranqui, viejo. Ahora que quiero primero mirar qué pinta por acá. Nada. Ya fue. Empezó.
Changed your mind, man. You know,
Bien, estoy listo para abandonar Cherbourg.
All right. Where'd you need to be?
¿A dónde vamos? Una buena pregunta, ¿no? Barfleur, está acá nomás. Y después tenemos... Vamos primero a Barfleur.
We went to Barfleur, a scenic port town built on granite. It was the biggest harbour in Normandy and the main entry point for the Normans to their new possession of the Isle of England.
Mirá lo que filetea este. Tiene cara de poco amigo, pero mirá lo que filetea. Qué precisión con el cuchillo. No está mirando el pescado y lo filetea igual.
I talked to... Maybe I was approaching this
Me
the
pasé
wrong
sin cara de
way.
uno, perdón.
What had drawn him to France in the first place? The distance to Kingsbridge? Or something specific? What was my lead?
Yo qué sé, pendeja. ¿Vos te crees que yo me la sé toda? Concha tu madre. No, pará, antes de irnos ahí nos vamos acá.
Lessay was tiny, but as it turned out, worth the trip. In the small abbey church of the Trinity, I met a monk who claimed to have talked to a man fitting Jack's description. He'd been fascinated by the abbey's rib vaulting and had asked the monks countless questions about the place's construction. The monk apologized that he couldn't tell me where Jack had traveled next, but I didn't mind. I lay down to sleep on the floor of the Abbey guest house and, for the first time in almost a year, I felt relief. As I drifted into sleep, I hugged our baby tight and whispered into his tiny pink ear, "We're going to find your daddy."
Seguí los peregrinos de Monte Le Mans. Y por orden me queda mejor venir hasta acá, después de acá. Pero ojo que acá me desapareció este, entonces también puede ser que no. Vamos a jugarnos la, pues está más cerca.
My father had once told me tales of the Mont Saint-Michel. Long ago, the Archangel Michael had urged Hubert of Avranches to build an abbey on a lonely rock on the ocean by burning a hole into his head. They say one can go and see his penetrated skull on display in the church of his hometown. It was a windy day when I arrived, and the place was crowded with pilgrims and jongleurs. I remembered Jack's fascination with these tellers of stories. I spoke to one who was just taking a break. As it happened, he had indeed met Jack, although not in Mont Saint-Michel, but on a road heading east from there. Apparently, Jack had been hopelessly tracking jongleurs who might have known his father, Jack Cherbourg. But as he'd been gradually running out of money, he'd intended to look for work in Le Mans or Tours. That was about 6 months ago. I was catching up.
Opa. Escala o... me da que es acá. Capaz que le rompe, me da que es acá. Está París.
Going to Le Mans reminded me of all the trouble I'd left behind in England. 30 years ago, Le Mans had been conquered by the Plantagenet Geoffrey of Anjou, Maud's husband. And although they'd held it ever since, other noble families kept on pulling at the city, like Maud and Stephen tearing at England. There was no sign of Jack, but I got news of a new kind of cathedral being built in Saint-Denis, just north of Paris. It was possible that Jack had gone there to learn from the craftsmen. That was, if he hadn't travelled further south, looking for work in one of the many churches in Tours, the hometown of Saint-Martin.
No, yo me la juego que vino a Tours. Puede ser para allá, pero yo me la juego que vino acá. No lo veo mucho de Francia allá. La sorteé. Jackie, ¿estás por acá? Jackie. Ya tiene como 3 meses mi pibe. Adiós. Adiós.
I should talk to him. Good day. Are you the master builder?
What is it?
I'm looking for a mason who may have passed through here. An Englishman with carroty hair. He calls himself Jack Jackson.
A redhead?
Yes. Did you see him? He might have asked for work here.
No, I'm not looking for new masons. We're just doing repairs.
Ah, but was he here?
No, never seen him. Now, stand back, woman. Something could fall on your baby's head.
May I talk to your workers?
No, they're busy. And I can assure you they have nothing to say on that matter.
Perhaps I'll talk to
El
them once
pelado
they're
este me
finished
está
for the day.
ocultando algo.
It would be a waste of time.
You hesitated when I mentioned a redhead. Are you sure you haven't seen him?
Yes, I am sure.
Vamos obras
Are
alrededor.
there other construction sites around Tours?
Well, yes, it's a big town.
And where would an outsider most likely find a job?
Dunno. Ask around.
No me estás ayudando nada, pelado.
All right, he was here.
Sí.
Was working for me. But I had to throw him out after 2 or 3 days.
Why?
Because he was all want. Let me redesign the roof, let me make the nave lighter. All pretty ideas, but he never shut up long enough to do the work he was supposed to do. Shit, that man was almost as needy as my son when he was still a brat.
He does know a lot about his craft.
Well, I know masons like him.
They grow up gifted but without a mote of discipline in their guts. Can't work with someone like that.
Tiene sentido.
Do you know where he went next?
No idea. Maybe to Limoges or Angoulême. Maybe even to La Rochelle. Seemed to have plans for every cathedral on God's green earth, but none for himself.
I understand. I'll leave you to it then.
Bon voyage.
Bueno, ya que se está cayendo la banda, ya. Viejo, se está cayendo una banda ya. Papuquetón, ¿cómo estás, Johnny? Este pelotudo de Jack. Otro lugar con otra catedral. Y me la voy a jugar
We
acá,
had just
léeme.
left tour when I suddenly felt dizzy. I stopped and made rest, trying to catch my breath, then lost my breakfast in a ditch at the side of the road.
Uy, se me está enfermando.
To my horror, our baby too had grown pale, his breath shallow like that of an old man.
Uy, la concha.
I tried not to panic, but the next inn was a long distance away and we couldn't stay on the road where it was wet and cold. I managed to walk until the sun had fully risen before I keeled over. A knife merchant who'd been travelling behind me flagged down a coach heading back to Tours and haggled with the coachman to carry me back to an inn.
No sé. La verdad que no sé, Framito. Me decía que estaba teniendo problemas para ver el stream, pero... volvimos a
Back in
Tours.
Tours, the fever got worse. I remember people carrying me into a room, laying me on a bed. I tried to feed my baby, but after that everything turned into a blur. When I awoke, Jack was standing next to my bed.
Opa.
He scolded me for following him. You know you could go anywhere you want, he whispered. Why be stupid and follow me? I tried to answer, but he just opened the window and jumped out, heading toward ancient Greece, or maybe all the way to Arabia. And in my feverish mind...
Las drogas, chicos, dejen las drogas, pues pasan estas cosas. Agresio. Cambridge, nada que ver.
The further I went, the angrier I got. For years I'd been fighting for my family. I'd committed myself to an oath to my father. I'd built up a business to sustain it and even married a man I despised so I could create a future for the people around me. I'd known nothing but my duty to the men in my life, while the man I was trying to find lived a life of casual irresponsibility. He traveled the world on a whim to learn about mathematics and philosophy, while I had to raise the child he'd... When could I ever do anything just for myself? I asked.
Cambridge. Se está enojando.
I traveled in a circle all the way to the edge of the world and back, only to return to the place of our failure. With my eyes closed, I listened to the sound of ripping yarn and crumbling walls, and of coaches carrying good people away into a cloud of crimson dust.
¿Despertaste?
When the last mote had settled, I opened my eyes again and found myself in a dirty little room. An old maid was sitting next to my bed and smiled at me, then handed me my baby. Oh, dear God, he still looked so pale.
Dale de comer.
I tried to feed him, but he refused. Oh, please, God, let him live. Don't punish him for my own sins. I gently caressed his head until finally he put his mouth to my breast and drank more and more, becoming greedier with every swallow. We had both been spared. We rested one more day. Then I gathered my things and headed back to the cathedral to thank the Lord.
Y ahí estaba el Jackie. Full hater. Ay, Jackie, mirá que yo te banco, pero sos un pelotudo de un calibre. Igual la piba un poco se lo merece, que sufre un poco. El vivito no se lo merece, pero...
I thank you, dear Lord.
All right,
I
steady
thank
now.
you for having spared my child. I thank you for...
Don't let go until it's done.
But why are you showing mercy on
Ahí
me?
está la moldura que
I
hizo Jack.
failed everyone I cared about. I failed Jack. I failed my brother. And if I never return, I would also break the oath I had given father. It's just that I feel like I've never had a life of my own. I've always fought for others. And this may be the very first time that I fight for something that I only want for myself. Maybe I should just go back and help rebuild Kingsbridge. Maybe Jack doesn't even care for me anymore. Amen.
Obvio que voy a mirar la estatua, es la que hizo Jack. Y sí, en su bar.
I've seen one of those before.
It's amazing, isn't it? The man who did that really had it in him.
Quedó.
Had what in him?
The spirit of a true Mason. It's a shame that the master let him go. In just 1 month, he did so many things.
¿Qué hizo?
The master builder said he'd fired him after just 3 days.
Did he? Well, maybe that's how he
Sí,
remembers
puse
it.
algunas etiquetas
The
como
two
para poner,
didn't
la verdad
really
no tengo ni
see
idea.
eye to eye, you know? To tell you the truth, everyone thinks that he feared for his own job,
No,
having
poner.
someone like that around. The last thing Jack did was carve that corbel. It was the one thing the master let him do. Then when he was done, he was asked to leave.
Your master said he had no discipline.
Let me tell you something. Jacques worked very hard on it. He was impatient and had a temper, but you could see that he tried to overcome it. Conquering that rock was very important to him.
Oh, I understand that so well.
Es la misma ménsula que estaba tratando de hacer en Cambridge.
He wanted to walk the pilgrim trail to Santiago de Compostela.
The Camino? The way of St. James?
He said he might find someone there who knew his father.
Just one more thing. How was he when he left?
Never thought about that. Relieved, I guess. He seemed ready for something new.
Thank you so much for your help.
Think nothing of it. And good luck on your travels.
Si querés ponerme algunas nuevas, poneme, Franquito, si tenés idea. Yo la verdad le puse algunas como para poner. Porque la verdad no se me ocurría nada. Y las etiquetas que habían en un lugar lejano.
Isn't it odd? Just when you stop looking, you come across the most curious of things. Like these 3 devices that one of my merchants brought back from Baghdad.
Oh no. Is it another one of your Banu Musa toys, Rashid?
They're not toys, Adriel. They're objects of scholarly ingenuity and reflection.
I will let my valued friend from the north do the honors.
¿Qué hace Jackie?
Jack, if you may.
¿Qué querés, bro? El artilugio.
For one, let me draw your attention to the magnificent songbird on the table. And then to that wondrous donkey next to the entrance.
Estatua de la dama, una vela. Vamos con la estatua de la dama.
The most astounding thing of all stands right between them. On second thought, why don't you save the lady for last? Otherwise, the other 2 devices might appear bland and boring in comparison.
I agree.
Bien.
That statuette.
Vamos primero con la vela, que debe ser lo más rupestre.
Precisely. But one thing at a time. Let us let Jack decide what to demonstrate first.